Hello everyone. It is currently, what's the wrong time? 3:58 a.m. Halloween day. So first off, happy Halloween everyone. And I have a pretty interesting video for you guys this time around. This is I guess you could say a parody video of Go My Favorite Sports Team. To add a little bit of a backstory to it, Go My Favorite Sports Team is a podcast hosted by Tyler Scheid and Mark Fishbach, otherwise known as Tyler Apocalypto _12 and Markiplier. It's a sports podcast for those who are into sports, those who are not into sports, and everything in between. And in one of their episodes, Performance Enhancers, they made a joke, like a passing joke, saying, wouldn't it be funny if someone redubbed, I guess, the episode? And I did something like that, not exactly to the T. I instead had the computer listen to the audio of the episode, which was Performance Enhancers, link in the description below for all the Go My Favorite Sports Team stuff. But I had the computer listen to the audio for Performance Enhancers, the episode name, and then blurt out a script, basically the text-to-speech thing for Siri. I did that on a bigger scale. And this is a reading of that script. It is completely nonsensical, and I do highly recommend listening to the original episode, and then if you want to listen to this one, so you can see the bits and pieces where some parts do make sense and some parts don't. And I hope you enjoy. To those who are into, like, who know about Go My Favorite Sports Team, it's cursed. This is a cursed piece of art, ? And to those who don't know Go My Favorite Sports Team but do know me from the channel, hey, how's it going? This is your Halloween special, guys. I hope you found Alien Isolation fun, because this has nothing to do with it. The only reason why it's Go My Favorite Sports Team now and not the original time, which I believe was in July, I scheduled it for, is because I heard that October is a good time for sports. So, theming is on point. And other cool things too, I have a jersey type thing. It's a Sith 77, it's a Star Wars themed one. A bit of a spoiler for something in the future. And then, don't mess up with the mic. Dodgers. Rooted in history, baby. Which is a story I can tell later. But anyhow, I hope you enjoy. And of course, happy Halloween to all of y'alls. And if you don't celebrate Halloween, steal as much candy as you can. Please be safe and all that fancy jazz, you know. And yeah, I'll see you guys again tomorrow for a thingamabooper. But you know, moving on, we gotta speed things up because this is like 40 minutes long, and I'm still editing it right now. So I hope you enjoy, and yeah, happy Halloween. Ciao. Welcome to My Favorite Sports Team. Tyler here, your sports master's degree recipient, the one that knows the knowledge of the sports world, the one that listens and watches the sports game and sporting events, the one that died on Mark. I am the other guy in this podcast, the guy who doesn't know sports. Hey, the door's open. Comcast stores, what's up? How you doing today? I am quite well. I was moving some stuff around, getting my weight stuff set up. I signed up for a boxing gym or just a boxing gym wrath. And the manager literally by my school year, so they were a year above my brother. You were asking me to remember the guy's name. I'm so bad with the club, and with him we talked about the club less than we talked about with him. Haha, I bet you do remember the name of the club. I do, but I'm not going to say. It's wrongs of fans. I will show you up and beat you. To do today's topics, not I'm so sorry. It's not about boxing, it's about something even better than boxing. It's about performance enhancement. Oh, I thought it was about drugs. Both drugs are performance enhancing. What else is for cells? Performance enhancing surgeries that can increase your height. I know, like there is a breast enhancement, there's the thing where they freeze the fat off the Triumph. Yes, saturated lipid freezer, outfitter, but they're also penis pills, penis pumps, penis. Those two exist balls, and Chad Ochocinco claims that he took Viagra before every football game when he played in Cincinnati. That was a thing I wanted to look at bigger. I mean, that would look like he would have to be that if what you got hit with a boner and it snapped in half like Viagra works, would enhance your blood flow, right, but only to that specific region. I don't know how Viagra works specifically, this blood flow in general, or if it's just the penis pump. What I mean, copy of Tyler, a job. Well, that's just those guys whose knuckle-dragging Neanderthal is over-distractible. Do we see here go at my favorite sports team, our classy organization for classy listeners, where we're focused on the important topics that has exactly one before we get into this. I did want to talk about a few things that are going on in the sports world today. It was a Swedish person that just won the Indy 500, like a monumental event in more than Indy 500 just happened to the right man. You didn't know that wouldn't even fit the United States. Motor racing events are right, that sounds cooler, and it happens in Indianapolis. That's why it's called the Indy 500, and Marcus Ericsson wins for the first time. He had originally transferred from Formula One to the United States, become a superstar, and racing Formula One is the world's premiere. The F1 Formula One is the world premier motorsport league, once so motors for you to see how you're like the Wikipedia page in the Play Store motorized vehicle of some kind on mower. It could have been any way back to the breaking news the Golden State Warriors have advanced to the NBA Finals, which is the team that I picked to win it all. And today, right now, that is not your team, that in the Heat are playing in the 7 games to decide who faces off against Golden State tonight. Those are my teams in the NHL hockey, the ABS, and Oilers are facing off if you did pick ABS. I did, and the Tampa Bay Lightnings have advanced to the eastern side for those little liars. No, they're for no. It was for the Timberwolves. All right, boys, and I'm so sorry, but the last part was something we talk about sports and ethical sports. That part is so good in sports. Like, no, if people bred, it is a circus or whatever. Oh no, Twitter argument, no. But there is a protest happening because of the school shooting that is happening in the Texas. The general manager of the San Francisco Giants has been staying in the clubhouse during the national anthem to protest with relation and meeting to fix the issue in the United States are mainly being the issue of gun violence, and that is a huge thing in this huge shopping today because of the Colin Kaepernick incident vilified, right? Yes, and so a lot of people are comparing the two, and the biggest reasons they're comparing the two is because the argument is to be had the column cap with the way to the point where people show more respect to these people, stand up and speak out for wrongdoings. This episode of Go is sponsored by Christopher Lee Tyler Rio. Listen to me. The whole heart things can get really busy in Mark's life, and I understand how difficult it is, but it can be so much easier if you just went and got Grammarly, Mark. And it would be easier for you to audience if you go get Grammarly. It helps you work more efficiently and effectively, and if people understand what you're saying, when I speak me all people look in eyes, and I can't look my way in computer typing, what you're trying to say, grandma. Lee's right there for you for more than just your spelling and grammar checker. It's an all-in-one writing tool that allows you to clearly and effectively communicate your ideas to your friends, your fans, your partners on a podcast. Tyler, me try, and Grammarly sign up now with promo code GOSPORTS. Read, I love you. Listen, being clear and concise. Whether it's on social media or in your emails, it is extremely important to communicate quickly and effectively in business and in life. Rewriting hard-to-read sentences is going through and rereading everything. It takes time. Grammarly does it for you. To make your work more effectively and efficiently mean I'll sign up for the Grammarly with a Go Sports. Wow, I feel so much better. Time sees confident in effect. A free account. When you ready, write, so drugs write, and yes. I'm listening, and we are all listening, and all the listeners are listening, all right. So to give some perspective, what competitive integrity means, because I talked about this way to say that word against competitive integrity, and what we were talking about drugs, drug specifically, performance-enhancing drugs, correct, it gives you like. Because I talk about this later minute, say that word again of integrity, and what we were talking about drugs, drug specifically, performance-enhancing drugs, correct is arguably a performance-enhancing drug is like, I don't know exactly how always, everything to the penis, but like marijuana can also be considered permanent tenants and drug ornaments. How much coke did you take before this podcast? 0. Must Coca-Cola counts, but then that's also 0. So when it comes to performance-enhancing drugs, one of the biggest things that people talk about is why they should be omitted, and that's why a big deal is competitive integrity. Of course, I'm so competitively spoken about it before earlier and different episodes of the podcast, that have you do it if you're it says a curse word. I can't curse. That's, I mean, I can curse, but I'm not gonna. Just go back a couple lines, I'll fix it. Of course, I'm so competitive spoken about it before earlier and different episodes of the podcast that you have to, if you're bullshirting me, that you said the word performance integrity before, not performance integrity competitive. I don't know, okay, so I don't remember you ever saying those words before, but go on. Integrity means that we are aspiring pros, which is use amateur and professional athletes have a fair shot of reaching the highest levels of play through merit-based competition. So the idea is that they want people to advance and decide the victor based on a person's skill, natural athletic ability, talent, and teamwork, rather than on external factors. And the basis of this argument, this external factors will be things like surgeries, performance-enhancing drugs, gambling, all the different other things that lines of cloak at the backtrack table. While it's gambling, performance enhancing is not necessarily performance enhancing. Have you ever heard of the Black Sox? Was the Chicago White Sox that were burning on base for a brown stocking set the Black Sox win the World Series against the Cincinnati Reds, and there was a likely story, man. Cincinnati Reds never early years when we were born 1990s, 91. Last describer I can give you for how can link and impact sports describe the description examples of for picking a party or words up to we all know the Chicago Black Sox played the Cincinnati Reds in the World Series. They were considered the premier team at the time. One of the famous players on that team was Shoeless Joe Jackson. You ran out of excuses, he ran out of a shinzu. So fast he would run out of his shoes. That's why I am better. That's not an excuse for speed. Out of your shoes like the tops, just roof off. Your feet pulling straight from the that are not fast. You just got loose shoes or slippery socks. Why do they call the sweaty sweet Joe Johnson, what's his name? Shoeless Joe Jackson. Frick. Slippery sloppy. Slippery sloppy with what Joe Jackson? Joe Jackson, baby. It's because I was slipping slaw. And it was like, no, can keep driving anyway. Continue, they were playing Cincinnati Reds. And what I swear, it's not just my ears. I didn't undo dating. I will please, but there will be plenty of Cincinnati Reds. All right, so apparently a number of players in the Chicago White Sox with just their actual names as Black Sox, known as the Black Sox, because of the gambling fiasco, in that they were working with a bookie to throw the games, so they were purposely correct. No, it's not the right now. Okay, in that they were working with a bookie to throw the games, so they were purposely, that's how to perform correct. It is not the right, but there is an argument that we had like to know where the key, the thing, the making sure through hard work, skill, acquisition, intelligence, all of that to win the competition that's not performed. So that's a huge deal, because if you lose the integrity of the sport, right, and also it is like how we talked about the nil conversation of one team has so much more money they can buy the best players. Yeah, there's no competitive integrity, right. So to summarize the scroll, there are listening, basically competitive integrity is the concept that a kid growing up has, no matter the circumstances of their upbringing, has a just as much chance if they work as hard as another player or kid who have ever been in different circumstances. Everyone level playing field. Competition should be 11 playing field. And we talked about this. Also, when it came to mine, just went blank completely. When did we have a few puffs? Before I was working in the garage in the very hot crawl space of the top. Sure, the fumes, I get you the spiders. I probably got bit by a few of them, but you know we talk about this podcast with a sporting chance. Okay, yes. 418, to have a sporting chance, competitive integrity has to be intact. Okay, at all times back in the very beginning, you guys weren't listening from the very beginning. You don't know what we were talking about, and take notes, write everything down. This is that is for re-recorded in your own voice. Playing bullets, so how many performance-enhancing drugs do you think they're out? God, you got cocaine and heroin. You said marijuana, gambling, steroids. Steroids, different steroids. Big Paul steroid, small balls. None that change the size of your ween, but there is one that changes the size of your nipples. Is one you inject in the ear, the ones he's injected between your toes. You've got that. It's considered methamphetamines, methylphenidate. With alcohol performance, your hands arguably, yeah, Viagra. I don't know if that's listed. No, it's actually legitimately a performance-enhancing drug, just a different type of performance. I'm done, but there's a massive list on the NCAA website. Okay, what if it's considered unallowed if there are simple things such as caffeine? Caffeine is in fact a performance-enhancing drug, but is banned It is banned after a certain amount. So if you have an exorbitant amount of caffeine, then you would test positive for being on a performance enhancing substance. Like one Mountain Dew or one coffee isn't going to do, but if you pound like 50 coffees, yeah, you're going to have a heart attack in the middle of the field anyway. But that, yes, cocaine, in fact, listed as performance, and I would believe that you've already talked about in some ants atizamine Adderall is listed on here. Oh yeah, but there's a few other drugs that you didn't think of. Ethridopamine probation for not thinking of her. What is it? The blood doping substances that stimulate your red bone marrow to create more red blood cells, so it would increase the amount of red blood cells in your blood, therefore increasing your hemoglobin and the ability to carry oxygen to your muscles. It's primarily your blood, therefore increasing your hemoglobin and the ability to carry oxygen into your muscles, is primarily used by endurance athletes. Yeah, it isn't that what you call that just to do the high altitude training to get that anyway? Why would you need to pump a drug for it? So the interesting thing to talk about the high altitude training at high altitude is actually shown to be a negative. If you live at high altitude, then the natural altitude acclimation is where you get the positive results. Theoretically, the best way to train is actually to live at high altitude and to train at low altitude, because you're not able to train as hard because your body's not getting the same amount of oxygen when you're training at altitude. Now, I love it up in the mountain. Walk down mountain. Carry Madame Zeroni up the mountain is Madame Zeroni. I see when your training altitude is now. I live in the mountain. Walk down mountains. Carry Madame Zeroni up the mountain is Madame Zeroni. Everyone listening, shame Tyler on the sub. Red, don't tell him. What is it? But it's just a shame. Yeah, and it's 14. It is a movie character from Holes. The movie Holes. That's not what's listed as on here. Madame Zeroni was the woman who cursed Ali, Yell Nate, and his family line. It is from old 7 minutes since I read the book or watched the movie that there is a slew of performance-enhancing drugs. Sure, the most, but where there is a slew... Frick. Well known is obviously anabolic steroids, okay, which is artificially form of testosterone enhancement to where you are able to build a muscle at rapid rate. Obviously, side effect of roid rage, small testicles, acne, increase in estrogen production in the body as well to memorize, and obviously heart attacks, major health issues, brittle bones, so all of that things are negatively for taking the truck. But not only does it affect competitive integrity if one person started using this and was considered legal, right? Everyone have to use it and get to the same place, thereby putting more people in health-wise. Yes, okay. Since and so, like from the logical reason, in Sandpoint, that is why a lot of stuff is banned. However, there is a number of different people that have outcried recently, especially when it came to marijuana, an Olympic athlete, a runner, a sprinter, which marijuana would not be considered as a performance-enhancing drug in that particular sport. It is considered a performance-enhancing drug in certain sports, that where you need comment, so if you like shooting a bow and arrow and you want to have it more relaxed feel, but one of the famous US sprinters wasn't able to go to the Tokyo Games because of a positive testing of marijuana, so he was banned, she was banned, allowed to go even from weed for weed, and that's not a new thing because that even happens in the NFL and other places like that where you would think marijuana will not have a positive, and so that is a Sir toggle of which drugs have a whole are locked down upon, but at the same time there needs to be more education, in my opinion, about what's performance enhancing. And of course, being your marijuana and being on those lists is completely ridiculous, and in California, it's pretty much completely legal for people of age and with an ID. It's just so weird. Why is alcohol not on a banned list? And it is the NCAA as alcohol and other beta blockers not on the banned list, because beta blockers is alcohol, and alcohol is well not a page it says, and beta blockers, I'm pretty sure everyone in the world knows we probably don't do that. Yeah, we probably ain't gonna make you run faster. That's so stupid. Yeah, those dreams crushed. Why? Maybe they weren't even smoke, and maybe they were just at a party where there was a bunch of people smoking weed, because I bet those tests can pick up that minute trace of it. I do not know whether it was pretty sure just a piss test. So I mean, from what I've read, because I've never experienced this before, is that I can stay in your system for like, it blows out of your system Frank Sunday of time, especially in your hair. But it's sad when you do not tell me that there is a complex situation with performance-enhancing drugs, and what is considered performance-enhancing drugs are diuretics, things that would help you disguise that you are taking performance-enhancing drugs, because it's all a pee test. Diuretics for things that make you pee more for everyone correct. And so for me, I was taking 3 different bands of instances when I was participating NCAA athletes. Interesting. but I was allowed to vit because of all the anemic. I was on estrogen. Okay, because I was anemic. This was the right for the chronic kidney failure. For the record, I was on diuretic because I was helping. For the record, I was on a diuretic because I was helping me with my kidney function, called and not no amlodipine. That is a different drug, enterapil. It was considered a diuretic and is one caused me to cramp up really bad in the regionals for water polo at once here, so there's certain levels when they would allow you to have drugs as long as there's obvious evidence and doctor's orders. But in the NFL and everywhere else, sometimes that's not enough. So the other things that come into factor is the drug tests, right, and the privacy laws surrounding that. Okay, I want your opinion of this because I'm at the belief that when you are given millions of dollars to participate as a professional athlete and for the safety of an entire community, I am an outlier in this. I personally get blood drawn all the time. I don't find a blood test to be able to a professional athlete that invasive. I mean, no, I personally would not think it'd be invasive. Like, your blood is a standard indicator of what's going on inside your body, of what is no way people are going to take the blood on you, or something that could really come back from blood test, unless it really hates needles. So it's one of those things that, to me, I think of being a professional athlete a distinct privilege, as opposed to something that's a right, obviously. They have a union with a collective bargaining agreement, a players' association argues, but I know I've been drug tested randomly numerous times, and it's always been peeing in a cup. And pee is what it is, but a blood test would show more honestly, in my opinion, protect the safety of everyone within a field so much better than regular blood tests. They're not doing their job right, so they should go to a doctor. Regularly correct, but the question is whether somebody else can look at what's going on in their blood and determine whether or not they can be a professional athlete. I mean, isn't that part of the deal? Could not just be in the contract for what they do sign the contracts. That is my belief, but again, that is a big thing. The union fights against, they don't want them to have to get drug tests in the sense of that it has to be random, that it has to just be a piss test. I mean, if there was an efficacy difference between blood tests and piss tests, then you'd have a greater suspicion of someone for actually taking a gun, illegally banned substances. I would be more in favor, but also if the standard of a certain test and in a certain drug can only be detected with blood tests, which drugs show up, and piss, you gotta look at the blood where there are drugs, and artificial, well, not artificial forms of testosterone, harvested testosterone, that can go on completely on testosterone blue pregnancy test, human growth hormone. I don't know what it does. I think it grows humans' babies. That's what you think you know, but the mothers are just injecting human growth hormone into their babies. Center me. All right, so these things are things that are banned. Right. All of these drugs, all of these things that are considered performance enhancing, herb. And Steph Curry recently got LASIK eye surgery for a few seasons ago. That bastard. I knew he was up to no good. These gosh damn off performance enhancements. That's what he did to get LASIK eye surgery. He made his ability to see better, his vision, and was not great, and is still performing exceptionally, and made it in the NBA. Okay, LASIK eye surgery to correct his vision. The saying is, I don't know if he did this. Well, it's just knowledge about LASIK eye surgery. Nowadays, you can get my surgery now that makes your vision better than the average. Cool, you can go above 20/20 vision. Cool, sign me up. But the interesting thing is that the font is not considered performance-enhancing drugs, in the same way that the drugs our Olympic Committee talks about drugs being in its own separate John R. And the reason for this because of the terminal factors that a lot of drugs they have banned to have the health of athlete okay. But that's why surgeries generally are not frowned upon. They are not because they are something side effects that would be detrimental unless something goes wrong during the procedure year. And also, we're just not. Because they're not something that has side effects that would be determinedly mess, something goes wrong during the procedure. And also, just like we're not really human that much, but I imagine you're able to tell me all the ways that we can enhance human. Yes, I'm very interested. So have you ever heard of Tommy John surgery? 1. Tommy John surgery on primarily found in baseball. Okay, what is Tommy John? Tommy John surgery, formerly known as ulnar collateral ligament reconstruction, wow, is reconstruction of the ligaments and tendons in the elbows. Okay, we today have been shown that people after Tommy John surgery today my brain is all over the place today, so we can see plainly that people coming back from Tommy John surgery can throw a baseball significantly harder and faster than they have the ability to tighten someone else's elbow. Ardolis Chapman is a great example of this when he had a surgery done when he was in Cuba, which is where he's from, and he went from throwing a ball around the 80s to low 90s to throwing in 100 plus mumph on each fast pitch ball. Wow, I'm imagining that's good. Yes, okay, that is so good. So they just got the screwdriver and they tighten her up. There, reconstructing all the ligaments in your elbow to where they can make it so your arm is called an arm now. I'm trying to think the tension in the elbow. Italy feel like it's more correctly, it's a pulley on a power. So when you extend your arm, it's already pulling you. Okay, interesting. What are they rebuilding? Like it to think they're generally just made out of body parts of the body. So like Evie, you know ACL surgeries. I know of them. I don't know how they're done, and there are two ways that they are done. One is cavity or donor. Second one is they can come sometimes go down and take a piece of the palatar tendon and put that in the ACL. Most of the time, the cavity or donut, they take the Achilles, not the ACL. They would take a different than correct because the reason they are tension, because its tendons have more healing properties and ligaments do mostly commands don't go to the blood flow. The difference between a tendon or ligament is simply how they attach to a tendons attached to your bone to the muscle a ligament attaches to a bone to harvest. And so it's a lot easier for harvest tendons than it is to try and harvest bone ligaments. And if you cut Mega Man, it doesn't exactly fit the spot where you're trying to replace. Yeah, whereas the tension is longer and they have a lot more ways over the way since it makes sense all okay. So this is Tommy John surgery. Yup, that you can go to get this make your fastball is faster, and this is not the band. This is not the band. This is something that undergoes a lot of pictures, a lot of time. Okay, undergo a lot of the time, go get naked. What are you doing, man? Alright, that was the surgery number 2. Surgery number 2 is a height enhancing surgery like a South Park, like getting taller. How do you pray tell? How do we get the surgery was originally designated surgically? I've been on calorie deficient and I think it's messing with my sugary. Was originally designed to correct mismatched length and legs. Okay, back issues. Because if your legs are not sure one way or the other form of a botched surgery. When he was a kid, all my mom had this issue because she broke her leg in college and it never healed. Bowed, so that ended up being shorter than the other. She had a crazy external fixator and all this stuff to straighten out the bone. Resume was not well. Apparently, this is becoming a new rage in the dating world, but you can have leg link set. Crazy external fixator and all that stuff to straighten out the bone. Resume not working apparently. This has become a new rage in the dating world, but you can also have leg lengthening surgery to get taller is practically king. I cannot imagine a way to do the surgery is done without breaking your legs. I don't think it is, but I think they use metal rods for it, and I had him guessing they drill into your legs. Yeah, it wouldn't your muscle, would stretch it out, so how long does it take for this? If I'm stretching it must take months, if not a year, right? It takes a long time to recover. Why don't they just crack bones and take half of the some pieces? Why bone shred and take a little bit, then let it all. Can't really put cement in your body. This is not as applicable to end, because apparently height is a big deal for men, and being sought after the shortcomings of the world. Correct. Yes, they're getting scooped up but left. Also, there is some people out there that just would prefer to be taller for utility purposes, being able to reach the top shelf. That's a bad explanation. It's probably just because they're insecure about their height. More than likely, you know if there's a surgery that can go out there and to do for people, more power to him, I guess. But there's a lot of drawbacks to this. There is nothing that exists that would some kind of complication down the road. Correct. I would imagine so it would be really, really available now, so there's actually just for the sake of checking to see how easy it is. Just to see what on, let me see, what is this lead link? Can make me 7 arms, 7 Cornelius. Found this limb literally just plastics. I ads never trust the ADD, but also God would you love if you look legs are suddenly way longer. I know some people have longer legs, but I mean 6 and they totally break your bone. They literally cut your bone, insert a rod in there, and they'll heal the bone. Back when there's also crazy because you're sticking a rod through the center of a massive part of your femur. Yes, which houses a ton of important bone marrow. Yes, and you're sticking a rod through set bone marrow, end up having a leg heal. Yes, it is a long healing process. Yeah, I had a rod in my ROM after I broke my arm from my phone from the monkey bars. To imagine viewers listening, wrist to elbow look like a couple of inches on the wrist, coupled inches on that the elbow and the one phone to the other diagonally does this rod broken, so need to heal properly so I can turn. But he pulled out right after they got so they could take the cast off, and then the doctor literally describes a wrench pair of pliers and grabs the metal rod and just pulled it right out while looking feel like the weirdest thing. Really have nerves, and I'm nervous. When the entrance were pretty much dead sliding, I didn't feel like nothing. Wow, it was weird. That is really bizarre. It is very different different. There are different. Okay. So I'm going to look up everyone has a different experience with pain during limb lengthening procedure overview has a consultation therapy, because I don't know if they actually can tell if you're going to actually be 6 inches taller or not, because if you just it is apparently the procedure overview is consultation therapy, because I don't know if they were actually, can you tell how you were going to actually be 6 inches taller or not? Because if you were just weird, how is that going to affect like your skin? Are you going to get stretch marks on your skin all over? Like I have stretch marks of my quad polo because of how enormous they became from water polo, and realized you were joking first because I actually had stretch marks on my quads. When I hit puberty, that's when I went for being bullied. But I like anyway, so I see an arm or leg may have stopped growing after completely fracture, or a fracture that heals incorrectly 30. Incorrectly, I've been texting you with my word slurs. What? Really are okay as a space can open up between these two ends, a new bone grows, are filled the caps. Are you the sure the reason, the know that the reason does the fact this happen is because I watched what happened with my mom, and she has the eternal fixator that they have to break our bone and then use it to straighten it, and then first knocked her one leg, ended up being longer than the others, are slowly stretching and the song tissues around the bone. I compared the daily stretching patent closely through the process, so obviously liked how you in the why, or at least the how is there of the surgery, banned in sports because it's relatively new. I have not seen anybody speak on this particular procedure. I don't imagine that the recovery process, when I broke my foot, is about 3 months, however much taller you're about to get. Tire below, I just remember seeing his little flappy arm because it was just that one dude that wipes memory that can't cast spells. Words, junk in the name of who cares. I mean, they're talked about, so 3 that I'm well aware of the nose, of the 3 that I just need to do the LASIK eye surgery, the Tommy John surgery, and then his leg lengthening one. That's interesting. I wish you hadn't already heard people clamoring to start being linked for how long. I am no greatest thing, is what I was actually going to make a joke when I introduced the surgery, and then I chose not to, because I don't like it, I don't want to. I don't want people to call Juan just to do it. I think you're a great height. Thanks, man. I think you're perfect the way you are. Thank you. What am I going to do is I'm going to stretch my arms out, see if you can brag about having the biggest wingspan, look like 6'30". They're going to do is going to chop it up into a bunch of whole different spots, my bones, and then stretch it out like a stripper twintelet. I have never even heard of any word carry on. Would I wonder if this surgery would make them realize that I am that lady screwed that I am from France is that anyways there's a lady down the truck. I wonder if she has this procedure, kinetically. French, you do this, guys, not friends. Why I'm not? Name one reason you're not French. My family's not from France. Anyways, what is there a lady down the truck? I wonder if she's like had this procedure, kinetically. But no, it was part of this link, the T virus, that explanation, Lady Modelo, whatever her name was, that this kid's different like side effects of this virtual mutation or this fungus. But then they showed in the surgery table and that there was allegations done to each one of them had done. So the other girls, but they was going for the lady. I just grow big, just big 9 right eye. Was I going to get the LASIK? Like how much I was not really sure about these kinds of surgeries or anything is like anything I'm sure to works to find if anybody wants the problem that I have even with LASIK in this concept of a solution for a problem. Now that down the road technology may get better because if you have to get LASIK, you still have to get a cut on your cornea and that will never heal that flap of your cornea when you get LASIK. It will never go away and it's usually 99.999% of the time not a problem. But it just seems to me barbaric to do something like that when we went down the road. There might be a better solution, technologically speaking, that doesn't require you to do permanent damage to an organ that will not heal. And for some reason, in my looking at surgery like this, I am not so desperate for a few more inches that I'm willing to break my legs and half and actually look up what is the Rose series with the recovery time, lengthening recovery time, okay after the length, and bones are fully consolidated. And with the doctor's approval, 6 to 12 months after surgery, patients can start performing requiring physical activities, such as running, jumping, or weightlifting, so that you couldn't run or jump or do anything for 6 to 12 months. Thank you. That is a long time. Yeah, and I can't imagine they're able to walk or do a number of things for what is crazy to me, because there is a massive rise in that cosmetic surgery over the last few years, and a lot of it they attribute to what I say in the dating world. But I have one of those things I brought up because I couldn't see as being an option for someone who's like you, who doesn't see any other way they make into the NBA. Because sometimes, they evaluate you, and you're like, not you're too short. You're sure. What? Sometimes that they evaluate you, and they're like, no, you're too short. No, you're too weak. No, you're too this was possible. Okay. I mean, you could just wear heels. What's the difference in the heel of your bone line? I mean, literally, there's no difference in between. I know some people do this when you would know their shoes. Do you remember Amy bought me 5 way too high lists of men lift shoes that are supposed to look like normal shoes? They do, they don't. Shahel. It looks like weird surgery, but it's just like having a funny feeling it's going to lead to some weird go locations in experiments you want to lengthen my leg. We'll see you like nobody knows you, but nobody knows you, and you have seen it at your height, right? Okay, and to see if anybody has realized it makes most people like those people, because this happens like every single time that I told you about it, but I'm actually curious what they would notice. So they're wearing those shoes as if I'm walking 5-inch stilettos, 17 or 2018. I don't know whether they were cuz I have the tour back on in 2017 or 2018. I'm not going to drop another like $150. I mean, also just thinking about the shoes, imagining like trying to get used to them at your height, because like the private you were Captain Magnum. I know I was about 7'6". I think of all that costume of 7'6", 7'6", so that added a foot and a half. Yeah, with the stilts, with everything, it was just like, oh my gosh, thank you. But it was just me, like it's just like that with it was nuts. I don't imagine 3-inch would make you that 70,000 pounds is what a 1,000 pound in American dollars are 5,000 procedures from 5,725. I mean, actually, no, that is super weird, because if you have to recover for a long time with physical therapy and stuff like that, to cover up all that you may stay in the hospital, and them having to give me laxatives for my latest about all the issues, that's cheaper than it would have cost me if I didn't have insurance. But break my bones now, I'm mad. So the reason I wanted to bring this up, because we talked about a competitive integrity, right? Okay, this week. Why don't you think is that surgeries are fine in this manner, like LASIK and other surgeries, like Tommy Johnson, someone who did the surgery done like other different things that help with injections and different things that make you more mobile? Why do you think these things are considered illegal drugs? Or no, I'm talking about it briefly, and why I think there is something that pops out of your mind because there's a semblance of competitive integrity issues. Not at all church. Right, you're supposed to have an equal chance. I mean, I see the LASIK as that just seeing better. You have contacts anyways. You get a contact prescription that can get you above or below 20/20. That's why I see that one that Tommy John, it was guaranteed performance every time with no penalty to a wishy-washy there, because it's not considered frowned upon, and it distantly most non-done in the US. It is like I said, Androlius Chapman had his done in Cuba, but is usually only done after they already tear their Tommy John, because it's a frequent injury for pictures and baseball, and the Tommy John legend, because it's so long to recover that if you kind of set yourself back, it's a year to recover. You set yourself back for a few years' time in terms of competitive advantage, and that's a lot of surgeries. You are not doing the surgeries on a whim most of the time. Usually there is need for a purpose for it, and if you don't have the purpose, you are not going to voluntarily do surgery, because anyway, I can see that if he's not being banned for now, because we're in the kind of medical valve not really being able to improve anyone's for medication, and just because you're a few examples of it, besides this Tommy John 1, and by the way, the name after the first person procedure was done on who's a picture of 1974, named Tommy John Light. See bro, he tore a ligament that he looked earlier as well. He was going to the right. Interesting. I think in terms of performance enhancements to start to go outside of the realm of underlying genetic predisposition, in certain quantities of a muscle to skeletal mass highlight, even known as acrobatic activity, is the powerhouse of the cell. A lot just having more of those when you'd have the things like the mRNA messenger, things tied up into like doing things with the body instead of just drugs, which the drugs are just miracle chemicals that they only do the specific thing that they were meant to have this happen, to do a lot of things that the doctors want them to. I was going to safely say they have side effects. Is tied into doing like things to the body that instead of just drugs, which drugs are, a lot of people think that drugs are miracle chemicals that only do specific things, and when they are meant for drugs that are chemicals that happen to do a lot of things that doctors want them to do. Side effects of these can affect them differently because of the entire earth are all working on. Thomas, leave it with chemical signals going back and forth every system of the body. If you eat, we still don't know how everything for something, but when we get to target specific DNA that increases your red blood cell count, make and more baby, more red blood cells, just have thicker blood. That's fair, has more muscle into genetic therapy to make sure your ligaments are stronger. That'll be required for athletes so that they get less hurt. And you know what I mean? There could be big when you get at least that is genetically that make the biggest, bulkiest super athlete possible, then you can make another one. And let's put him in a bit to make him fight at a Celeste. Like we thinking about just overall X sex. and Moral Baby. An interesting topic is how in World of Sports and time again, he's ignored me. How he's interesting basketball called the steroid era, where you have the numerous athletes taking on anabolic steroids. You have Mark McGuire, and it was the age of the home run. Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, and then something else in near Connor Duffy. And there's this whole area because there'd be pictures like Roger Clemens and stuff like that are not told aloud. The ones they have been proven to have taken steroids are not necessarily proven suspect of taking steroids or banned from the Hall of Fame, even though they're alcoholics due to the time in which they had not taken steroids. Interesting, they're completely wiped correct, and they're completely blacklisted from being able to make it to the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Which is your opinion whether or not they should be allowed in the Baseball Hall of Fame? Because there's also Pedros, who's one of the greatest hitters of all time for the Cincinnati Reds, and as the league in general is banned because of gambling. You never threw a game or gamble against himself. Interesting, do you think they should have been allowed in the Hall of Fame? That they know that they have some steroids as well? Even writers know who Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa. I don't follow baseball in the Hall of Fame. Doesn't include people that are culturally significant. It's disingenuous, and they actually care about yes or fame. Nope. He's not actually allowed, and because of gambling. You know that it is I get dying in the hill. Why do they? Because of all the same time it is doesn't matter what they do because they're wrong. And it kind of makes their institution look weaker if they're not even willing to admit that someone who's probably one of the most famous people in basketball is one of the greatest players of all time. It is one of the greatest of all times, and everyone probably knows a guy who falls at baseball like there is. Now, but I find the air of performance enhancing because the whole premise is fought. And we talk about this, you push the human condition, the human body to its limits and surpass them. Because by doing so well, like pushing our limits, are capable of raw machines get better. To find ways to make it better in the technology future is going to be interesting to see how these technologies going to make what they kind of genetic perfection are we going to achieve in terms of like number one, getting rid of a certain, my kidney disease is hereditary, nephris, which means hereditary like problem with your nephrology, which is a kidney but diagnosed haploid syndrome. I'm a weird mutation, but that's either way you got into kidneys, where you get 3. I have 32 of what you're atrophied in the balls of tissue. What if like there was a genetic thing that you just pull to be like, I don't die, I will probably be 100 years. You'll be able to pull out some blood and blood change my genetic sequence to where I'm able to produce the protein that I'm not able to produce. And my body just fully recovers. So that could just happen in the future, and when it also happens, it would be a whole concept of biology. It was overwritten because of our nanotech so good or whatever. I don't know who knows the future. It has to be up for specifically we can do our best. Apparently a few inches on your legs, or specifically, or maybe your shins. I don't know how to vote for both Tory Johnson's elbow out there since I have so many options. I have many, there's no limitless pill. It doesn't exist, correct? Even in the best ADHD medications are that they are basically meth clear. Only me can get taller, that there is actually nothing breaks, that you check your mark stuff over to where Markiplier exists, and 12 opposite tables for me to where look forward to get your ears next week. I'm rolling on to stay tuned for the hot and heavy Who episode that you every Thursday YouTube channel is still coming out on the way, and you hopefully some a live broadcast. Tune in, or a future possible Sunday. We got some of the tech in this room. You might have seen it in our little preview rant stream about how we were trying to get a live stream. So we got most of it for a few more pieces, and then we will be live. And as always, thanks for watching.